Welcome to the Daily Dispatch. First, we'll give you updates on the war in Ukraine and G7's pledge to meet Ukraine's defense needs. Next, we'll take you to Colombia, where rounds of talks are happening with the rebel group to establish peace in the country. And lastly, an attack was carried out in the hotel in Kabul by ISKP, short for Islamic State Khorasan Province. We'll tell you what that really means. We're here to give you the news and to help you infer the world around you. I'm Tayyaba Nasar Khan, and here is your Daily Dispatch. First up, let's take you to Europe, where the Group of 7 has pledged to help Ukraine with air defense capabilities to defend itself as the Russia-Ukraine war intensifies. In a joint statement, the G7 economic powers said that we will continue to coordinate efforts to meet Ukraine's urgent requirements for the military and defense equipment, with an immediate focus on providing Ukraine with the air defense capabilities. The G7 leaders were joined via video link by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Besides asking for air defense capabilities, he appealed to them to provide Ukraine tanks, long-range weapons, and artillery power. The appeal for more air defense capabilities comes at a time when Russia and Ukraine have increased their attacks, hitting important military targets and infrastructure. Last week, 2 drone strikes hit the Engels Air Base, which hosts Russia's fleet of strategic bombers, while Russia attacked different targets in Kyiv, including the communications and energy infrastructure. Now, according to some estimates, half of Ukraine's energy system has been damaged due to the Russian attacks. Ukraine is asking for air defense systems to neutralize the effectiveness of Russia's long-range missiles. It received its first air defense system, the IRIS-T, from Germany in October. The next month, the US gave Ukraine National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System. However, a Royal United Services Institute report claims that Ukraine is running out of air defense systems and needs more modern systems, including multi-role combat aircraft like the F-16. Now, some experts are wary that the delivery of more advanced air defense systems could potentially escalate the situation and might provoke Russia to become even more aggressive. It is also important to remember the nuclear rhetoric has been high from both the sides in the recent weeks, making the Russia-Ukraine war even more dangerous. Next on the dispatch, we'll take you to Latin America, where the Colombian government and the National Liberation Army rebel group, also called the ELN, have successfully held a first round of talks to establish peace in Colombia. Both sides agreed to implement a partial agreement for emergency care to enable the access to the worst-hit parts of the country due to the conflict. Now, this agreement will be implemented in January next year. However, they have not been able to establish a ceasefire yet. The National Liberation Army is one of the few remaining militant groups still operating in Colombia. It was formed in 1964 after a brutal civil war between the liberal and conservative parties. They had devastated large parts of rural areas. It was inspired by the Cuban Revolution and the liberation theology, which invokes religion to free the poor from oppression. Although it says its ideology is the emancipation of the peasant and poor rural communities, the ELN has also been accused of kidnapping, links with the drug cartels, and also targeting of the civilians. It has been fighting with the Colombian state intermittently for the past 5 decades. Insurgencies have taken a great toll on Colombia. Its Truth Commission report, released in July 2022, says more than 450,000 people have died over the 5 decades of fighting. But since the new Colombian president took office, he has tried to end the conflict once and for all by initiating a dialogue process with the last remaining militant groups with the help of regional actors like Cuba and Mexico, among the others. President Gustavo Petro, who took office in August 2022, has promised to bring total peace. This announcement and subsequent negotiations with the ELN take place when Colombia marks the 6th anniversary of the peace deal with another leftist militant group, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, also called the FARC, the once most feared insurgent group in Colombia. FARC signed a peace deal with the Colombian state in 2016, agreeing to relinquish the violence, lay down the arms, and become part of the political process. With the current negotiations with the ELN, one of the last remaining militant groups, Colombia is trying to establish lasting peace. And lastly, the Islamic State Khorasan Province, or ISKP, as it's more commonly known, took responsibility of an attack at the famous hotel in Kabul, popular among the Chinese diplomats and businessmen. The security forces tackled and killed 3 attackers after members of the ISKP opened fire, and 21 people were also injured, including 2 foreigners. The ISKP said that they detonated 2 explosives, one of which targeted a group of the Chinese guests. Formally established in 2015, the Islamic State Khorasan Province is a branch of the Islamic State and focuses on Central Asia and South Asia. Members of the ISKP splintered from Al-Qaeda and the Afghan Taliban, among the others, and emphasizes on a violent struggle against the near enemy, the apostates such as Shias, Christians, and Yazidis, rather than the far enemy, the West. Afghan Taliban were their principal target in 2017 and 18, with the number of fatalities from their attacks peaking in 2018. Although their strength has declined, the ISK continues to conduct attacks, primarily targeting the civilians. A US monitoring team said that the attack by the ISKP on Kabul airport that killed 170 people, including 13 US servicemen, elevated their status a couple of years back. Even though China does not officially recognize the Taliban government, it continues to maintain its diplomatic relations. The attack also comes a day after the Chinese ambassador Wang Yi met the Afghan deputy foreign minister, Sher Abbas Tanakzai, to discuss its embassy's security and other security-related issues. Even though the Islamic State's rhetoric had died down against China, it has started building up again against what they say is Chinese imperialism, which is basically referring to China's ambitions of global hegemony. They gave notable statements against the treatment of the Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities in China's Xinjiang province. China, on the other hand, has security concerns in Afghanistan, with the motivation to hold the flow of terrorism from the Afghan border. China's potential threat arises from East Turkestan Islamic Movement, which is an Uyghur-dominated group that aims to liberate Xinjiang province from the Chinese government. Many of the Uyghur members escaped into Afghanistan and Pakistan, who then carried out several attacks against the Chinese cities, including the deadly bus explosions in Shanghai and Kunming. Recently, in several meetings of the Chinese representatives with the Taliban representatives, surety was given to the Chinese side regarding Taliban's vigilance against the resurging terrorism. Also in the dispatch, we bring you brief headlines from across the globe. First, Iran has executed a second man, Majid Reza Rahnavard, for allegedly participating in the current unrest which is linked with the country's ongoing protests, and also carrying out a terrorist attack against Basij members, a paramilitary force in Iran. Majid Reza Rahnavard was convicted of killing 2 members of the security forces. Earlier, Iran had executed the first detainee, a 23-year-old named Mohsen Shikari, for attacking Iranian paramilitary forces with a knife in Tehran. These executions have elicited international condemnation. Protests in Iran began in September after the death of Mahsa Amini, who was arrested by the country's morality police for allegedly not adhering to the mandatory dress code. Recently, an Iranian public prosecutor claimed morality police has been shut down. Foreign-based human rights organizations have also said that more than 450 people have been killed during these protests, and thousands have been detained. These claims have been denied by Iran, saying that West is trying to instrumentalize human rights to achieve its own geopolitical goals by further isolating them. Next, founder and CEO of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, has been arrested in Bahamas and is expected to be extradited to the United States. The police said that he was arrested for criminal charges and carrying out financial offenses against the laws of both the US and the Bahamas. Now, the charges include wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering, among the others. The 30-year-old Bankman-Fried rose to become a crypto billionaire and was at the heart of the crypto exchange's crash, raising many eyebrows. FTX is a digital currency exchange on which people could buy and sell digital currencies, such as cryptocurrency, Ether, and others, along with trading normal currency for the digital. Last month in November, FTX became bankrupt, with many users unable to withdraw their funds. According to a court filing, FTX owes approximately $3.1 billion to its users. Next up, we're bringing you news of the 3-day US-Africa summit kicking off in Washington, D.C., where the President, Joe Biden, seeks to build trust and boost trade opportunities with the African leaders. The African Union, as well as 49 African heads of states and leaders, have been invited to the summit. The first version of such a summit was hosted 8 years ago, by President Barack Obama. And we're underlining 2 reasons why the summit happening now is significant. 1. It spotlights the US and the rest of the world recognizing how Africa will be the key geopolitical player in the global arena in the decades to come. And 2. The summit comes against the backdrop of China, the US's biggest global competitor, having invested heavily in Africa over the past decade, as well as Russia garnering support in the continent to counter the pressure from the US and the West as the war in Ukraine continues. That's all, folks. We'll be back tomorrow with more bite-sized news that keeps you up to date with what's going on in the country, the region, and the globe. I'm Tayyaba Nisar Khan, and this was your Daily Dispatch.